Millionaire mocked his ex at his wedding. She brought his hidden son. Weddings are often painted as perfect fairy tale endings to love stories. But for Darius Moreau, a self-made millionaire with a sleek image and sharper tongue, his lavish nuptials at the Savoy in London became the stage for a scandal that no one, least of all him, saw coming. When he spotted his ex-girlfriend arriving unexpectedly, he couldn't resist taunting her in front of his elite guests, certain she posed no real threat to his new life. Yet, beneath her calm demeanor lay a game-changing secret, set to detonate at the altar. In one heart-stopping moment, everything he believed he buried roared back to life, and immediate karma struck hard. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. Darius Moreau had always known how to pivot from adversity. Born in a cramped flat in London's Hackney, he spent his childhood plotting ways to rise above his circumstances. By the time he hit 25, he had hustled his way into a small fortune via cryptocurrency investments. That initial windfall kicked open the doors to more traditional ventures, restaurants, luxury apartments, and eventually a booming investment firm with offices in Mayfair. He prided himself on never letting sentimentality cloud his judgment. 3 months before his wedding, tabloids had celebrated his every move, photographing him stepping out of his black Aston Martin. His fiancée, Celeste Hawthorne, was pure socialite perfection, tall, poised, impeccably educated at Oxford, and accustomed to charity galas at the Serpentine Gallery. She had the perfect smile for photo ops and a designer wardrobe that drew admiration from influencers worldwide. Friends wondered if Darius truly loved Celeste, or if, in typical Darius fashion, he was upgrading his personal life the same way he upgraded cars or penthouse apartments. As for Darius, he insisted Celeste was his ideal partner, sophisticated, goal-driven, and unencumbered by the messy, emotional entanglements he despised. Where other women had demanded vulnerability and personal time, Celeste was content with polished dinners and curated social media posts. It was, in Darius's mind, a foolproof arrangement. And then there was Amelia Johnson, his ex-girlfriend, a figure from his past. He had broken things off with Amelia a year prior, convinced she was holding him back with her talk of building a real home and starting a family. She'd been the one encouraging him to remember his humble beginnings, to remain empathetic to others. Yet Darius saw empathy as a liability. When the breakup came, it was swift. He had parted ways with Amelia by texting her from an airport lounge in Dubai. In the message, he claimed their visions of the future simply didn't align. Amelia, devastated, never responded. His wedding day dawned bright over the Savoy, a venue boasting centuries of opulent history. Paparazzi and socialites alike flocked to the entrance, eager to witness the union of two prominent families. His new alliance with the Hawthorne clan promised financial synergy in philanthropic events and business expansions. The grand ballroom gleamed with gilded moldings and crystal chandeliers reflecting in polished marble floors. For Celeste, it was a dream come true. She'd grown up envisioning a wedding as exquisite as the stories she read in her grandmother's antique romance novels. Every detail had been executed under her discerning gaze. White roses flown in from the Netherlands, a custom wedding cake by the legendary baker Peggy Portion, and an A-list string quartet. Each seating arrangement was designed to ensure maximum networking potential. In stark contrast, Darius felt a restless energy beneath his polished exterior. As he surveyed the decor monogrammed napkins, swan-shaped ice sculptures, he mused about the business deals that would inevitably sprout from the day's festivities. He believed wholeheartedly in the idea that a wedding was an opportunity to forge alliances and grow his empire. Then his best man, Grant Lawson, breezed in with a conspiratorial grin. "Everything's set, boss," Grant joked, though he was more of a personal aide than a true friend. Darius smoothed his hair in the mirror, exuding the calm self-assuredness that had become his signature. "Excellent," he responded. "Let's make this wedding a statement piece." Half an hour before the ceremony, Darius strode past the meticulously arranged seating area to greet early arrivals. CEOs, celebrities, and influencers smiled at him, flashing pristine teeth. Cameras flashed, capturing the charismatic groom in his bespoke midnight blue tuxedo. It was then that he glimpsed someone near the back, a woman with a posture at once elegant and self-assured, wearing a simple yet sophisticated burgundy dress. He froze. Amelia Johnson. Though he'd never sent her an invitation, there she was, gliding gracefully among the bright dresses and tailored suits. Something about her had changed since they last spoke. She carried herself with a poised, quiet confidence that felt foreign compared to the heartbreak he'd left her with. At first, Darius felt a flicker of guilt. Then came annoyance. How dare she attend his wedding unannounced, especially after the way things ended? With Celeste nowhere in sight, Darius considered confronting Amelia. But as a beaming old friend from university approached, he forced a tight smile, engaged in polite small talk, and soon lost sight of his ex among the throng. Within minutes, though, a smouldering tension replaced his initial discomfort. He found himself scanning the crowd for her, growing impatient for an explanation. If Amelia dared to show up, was she intending to beg for his attention? Seek closure? The notion offered him a small, twisted satisfaction. The day was meant to celebrate his new life. If Amelia wanted to see him ascend, so be it. She would witness what she had missed out on. A smirk tugged at his lips, already anticipating how he might quietly mock her arrival. The ceremony began with theatrical flourish. An orchestral version of La Vie en Rose played as Celeste walked down the aisle in a custom Vera Wang gown. Darius's mother dabbed her tears, and the Hawthorne matriarch whispered excitedly to her husband about how soon they'd have grandchildren. Celeste's father, an influential diplomat, gave her away with a regal nod. Everything seemed orchestrated to perfection except for Darius's restlessness. He kept glancing at the back rows of chairs, searching for Amelia. He spotted her just as Celeste reached the altar. Amelia stood off to one side, half hidden by an ornamental pillar. For a fleeting moment, he saw something peculiar in Amelia's eyes, a mixture of sadness and resolve, an expression that didn't fit the narrative he had concocted about her coming here to pine after him. The officiant droned on about vows and the sanctity of marriage. Celeste's face radiated joy. Darius forced his lines with practiced charm, momentarily pushing Amelia from his thoughts. Then, at the prompt of "Does anyone here have any reason why these two should not be joined?" An old tradition, seldom leading to actual objections, a wave of unease swept through the audience. No one spoke, as expected. With an inward sigh, Darius relaxed. Amelia must have no intention to disrupt the ceremony, he assured himself. They exchanged rings, and in a flash, it was done. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and thunderous applause followed. Celeste's face glowed. Darius leaned in for the first kiss, letting cameras capture the moment. He told himself everything was perfect. After the ceremony, the newlyweds led their guests into the lavish reception hall. Towering floral arrangements filled the space with the scent of fresh lilies and gardenias. The wedding planner directed the champagne service, only the finest bottles of Louis Roederer crystal. A live band played a jazz tune, and staff glided between tables, offering canapes topped with caviar and truffle oil. Darius, flush with the power of a man who believed he had it all, beckoned for the microphone. This was an unscripted moment, not part of Celeste's carefully choreographed program. However, she offered a supportive smile, trusting her husband's showmanship. "Ladies and gentlemen," Darius announced, his voice smooth, "thank you for joining me and my beautiful bride, Celeste, on this magnificent day." Applause followed. But a wedding isn't just about forging alliances. He paused for laughter and got some from the more business-minded guests. It's also about acknowledging the journey that led us here. "Some of us had to leave behind certain people," he said, his gaze flickering across the crowd, trying to locate Amelia. "People who didn't share our vision or understand our worth." An unsettling hush fell among those who knew him well enough to detect the edge in his tone. Yet we should remain gracious. So if there's anyone out there who feels left behind, let me remind you, not everyone is destined for the pinnacle. Polite chuckles sprinkled across the room. The hush deepened. At the corner of his eye, Darius saw a figure shifting. Amelia stepped into a shaft of light, looking directly at him, her face impassive. The immediate surge of vindictive triumph he felt was overwhelming. He continued, addressing the entire room but aiming his words at Amelia. "We rise to greatness, and we do not apologize for it." A glimmer of anger flashed across Amelia's eyes, but she didn't shrink away. She remained there, her head high. Darius ended his speech with grand wishes for prosperity and eternal love, punctuated by applause. The underlying tension, however, was palpable. Celeste looked slightly uncertain, reading the crowd's unease without fully understanding its cause. After the speech, a string of toasts took place. Celeste's father praised her philanthropic nature. Darius's mentor lauded his business prowess. The newlyweds made their rounds, receiving compliments on the event's extravagance. But with every handshake and air kiss, Darius felt a swirl of anticipation in his chest, as though waiting for the other shoe to drop. Eventually, in the lull before the first dance, Amelia approached. She tapped his shoulder as he chatted with his old friend from the finance world. Darius turned. "Excuse me," Amelia said politely to the group. The friend, glancing between them, hurried off to give them space. Darius took in her appearance, noting how refined she looked, how unlike the heartbroken ex he expected. "She's here to fling accusations," he thought, a small sneer forming. "Amelia," he said, voice laced with condescension. "I can't say I'm surprised. It takes courage to walk in on such an occasion." A flicker of pain crossed her features, but she recovered quickly. "It took me a year to muster this courage, Darius." He let out a short laugh. "Well, let's hear it. I've already said my piece about those who couldn't keep up." She exhaled slowly, keeping a firm hold on something strapped across her shoulder, a leather messenger bag. "I don't expect you to believe me, especially after your little speech. But I didn't come here to fight or sabotage your wedding. I came because you refused to respond to my messages or calls. And there's something you need to see." Her gaze shifted left and right, as if searching for a discreet corner. Intrigued, Darius feigned boredom. "You could have sent an email, but maybe you like drama. Let's get it over with." Amelia guided him away from the main throng of guests to a quieter corridor off the banquet hall. There, she paused, looking genuinely nervous. "I tried to tell you before. You blocked my number, never answered my emails. I resorted to sending a letter to your old office address, but it was returned as undeliverable. I'm not here to ruin your day, but you left me no choice." She opened the messenger bag and pulled out a small folder. Darius tapped his foot impatiently, arms crossed. "If you're after money, it's not about the money," she snapped, then softened her tone. "Well, it is, in a way, but not for me. You have a responsibility." She rummaged, extracting a photograph. "This is Noah, your son." The corridor felt as though it plunged into sudden silence. Darius stared at the photo. It showed a toddler, maybe a year old, with big brown eyes and a mop of curly hair. Eyes like Darius's mother's, hair reminiscent of his baby photos. A cold bolt ran through his body. He scanned Amelia's face, certain she was bluffing. "Impossible," he choked out. Her eyes brimmed with tears she stubbornly refused to let fall. "We parted ways a year ago, and I found out I was pregnant shortly after. I tried everything to tell you, but you made sure I couldn't reach you. I raised him alone, Darius." He shook his head, voice low with denial. "I don't. You're lying. You just want." Amelia thrust a thin slip of paper at him, a paternity test summary from a private clinic in Harley Street. It bore his name, 99.9% probability of paternity. She had never looked so vulnerable, her usual confident aura fraying at the edges. "I didn't want to ambush you like this, but you left me no options. I won't let my son grow up fatherless." Darius's mind scrambled, recalling timelines. The math checked out, albeit shockingly. Everything, from his abrupt text message to her heartbreak, aligned with the possibility. But his pride roared in protest. She had crashed his wedding day to deliver news that would overshadow the entire event. Rage flared within him, along with the sensation of immediate karma. His earlier smug speech, mocking those left behind, seemed to echo like a taunt aimed at himself. He forced a cold laugh. "Even if it's true, you have no right to show up here unannounced. This is my day, my new life with Celeste." Amelia took a shaky breath. "We can do a second paternity test if you want more proof. But one way or another, you are the father. I didn't want to show up, but you blocked every avenue. I have medical bills, living expenses, a child whose father abandoned him before birth." Tears finally cascaded down her cheeks. No child deserves that. A conflicting tornado of emotions seized Darius' disbelief, guilt, defiance. "Look, let's be rational. If you're telling the truth, we'll handle it discreetly. How about you leave now, and I'll have my legal team contact you next week for a formal arrangement. I'll pay for the child's needs." End of story. Amelia stared at him in shock. "You can't reduce everything to a financial arrangement. He needs a father, not just a bank transfer. And I won't leave without letting you see him." Before he could stop her, Amelia nodded to someone behind him. Darius turned. A young nanny stood at the far end of the corridor, holding a sleeping toddler in her arms. Noah's tuft of curly hair was visible even from a distance. The corridor's hush buzzed in Darius's ears. He found himself involuntarily stepping closer, his heart pounding. The toddler, blissfully unaware, breathed softly against the nanny's shoulder. "Why would you bring him here?" he whispered. "Are you out of your mind?" Amelia's voice trembled with maternal protectiveness. "He's your son, and after you refused to hear me out, I wanted you to look into his face and know that he exists. I wanted you to see him before you tried to pay him off." Tension radiated. Darius wrestled with a paternal instinct he'd never truly imagined. Glancing at the child's peaceful face, a wave of awe collided with the terror of having his life derailed. He clenched his jaw. "This is my wedding day. My wife Celeste knows nothing about this." Amelia let out a shaky exhale. "I didn't plan on telling her here, but after that speech you gave about discarding people who hold you back, I felt compelled to ensure you couldn't hide from this any longer. If you want me gone, so be it. But you're not ignoring Noah. He's here." A fresh wave of panic and anger coiled in Darius's chest. What if Celeste found out about the child right now? The facade of his perfect wedding could crumble. He pictured the headlines: "Millionaire's wedding gatecrashed by secret child." The notion horrified him, threatening to overshadow the entire event and tarnish his carefully crafted image. Then, the sound of footsteps approached. Celeste emerged from the main hall, searching for her groom. Her eyes widened at the sight of Amelia holding a photograph, the nanny cradling a toddler. "Darius?" she asked, her voice uncertain. He whirled to face Celeste, stepping instinctively in front of Amelia and the child to block her view. "Celeste," he managed, forcing a bright, brittle smile. There's a small matter with an old acquaintance. Let's head back inside." But Celeste's sharp gaze fell on Amelia, then the sleeping toddler, a tension-laden beat past. "Darius," Celeste said in a near whisper, "what is going on?" Amelia, with composure that belied the tears on her cheeks, stepped forward. She didn't address Celeste rudely, but in a calm, direct manner. "My name is Amelia Johnson. Darius and I were together until just about a year ago. This is Noah, our son." Celeste's lips parted in shock. She turned to her husband. "Your ex has a child with you? Is that what this is?" Darius floundered, words tangling on his tongue. "I just found out myself. She's lying." He lied without conviction, the paternity test burning in his hand. "It's not what you think." Amelia's expression hardened, and she held up the test results. Celeste took them, scanning the page, color draining from her face. The hush in the corridor was almost suffocating. Footsteps in the distance indicated that some guests were drifting this way, curious about the bride and groom's sudden absence. Darius pictured the scandal, the cameras, the whispers. Celeste read the test results, a tremor in her hands. 99.9% Darius, you fathered a child with someone else, and you never told me. He pressed his lips into a thin line, unprepared for the meltdown that threatened to unravel. This was not how he envisioned his wedding night. "Celeste, I didn't know about it. She never told me until now." Amelia's soft laugh carried a trace of bitterness. I tried so many times. It was you who refused to talk or meet. I sent letters to every address I could find. My name on the envelope. You must have guessed why I was reaching out." Celeste's emotions flickered between anger and heartbreak. She studied Noah's sleeping face, the child stirring slightly, big eyes fluttering open. Celeste's breath caught in her throat as the boy gazed around and started to fuss. The nanny shifted him gently, murmuring soothing words. Celeste pressed a hand to her forehead. "Darius, how could you keep something like this from me, knowingly or unknowingly? Everything we built was predicated on trust, or so I believed." Her voice wobbled, eyes glistening. "Your father was absent most of your life. You told me that pained you, made you vow never to do the same. And now you—" She stopped, tears welling. "I need time to think." Darius reached for her arm, panicked. "Please don't do anything rash. Let's talk privately. Amelia, if you just—" Amelia's shoulders squared. "I'm sorry, Celeste. I didn't come here to ruin your wedding, but he forced my hand by shutting me out. I know this is a shock. Still, you deserve the truth." She glanced at Darius. "We both do." The band's music drifted from the reception hall, ironically cheerful. From the corridor's entrance, a few curious guests hovered, among them a gossip columnist for a popular tabloid who recognized Darius's face. The tension in the air was electrifying. Darius felt trapped between Celeste's heartbreak, Amelia's unwavering stance, and the watchful eyes of onlookers. A hush fell as Noah let out a tentative wail, perhaps startled by the tension. Amelia moved to comfort him, but Celeste, to everyone's surprise, stepped forward gently. She reached for the boy's tiny hand, her expression an intricate mix of compassion and devastation. "Shh. It's all right," Celeste murmured, though tears slipped down her cheeks. The toddler's sobs quieted to soft whimpers. Then he blinked up at Celeste, uncertain but calmer. In that moment, Darius caught a glimpse of what actual love and empathy looked like, qualities he had always dismissed as weaknesses. Here stood Celeste, in her wedding gown, tears streaking her mascara, yet comforting a child who symbolized a betrayal she'd never anticipated. The immediate karma stabbed him like a dagger in the gut. He had humiliated Amelia in front of everyone, only to be exposed as the man who abandoned his own son. A swirl of embarrassment and guilt consumed Darius. "Celeste," he began, voice raw, "I'm so sorry. I never intended." She cut him off. shaking her head with a quiet dignity. You never intended, but you did. Look at what's happening on the day you and I pledged our lives to each other. I'm seeing a side of you that's cruel, dismissive, and arrogant. You called out those left behind, but you left behind your own child. He flinched, hearing his own words parroted with bitter irony. He couldn't deny that the spectacle unfolding was entirely of his own making. He glimpsed Amelia's face, torn between heartbreak and maternal resolve. The child, his flesh and blood, regarded him with wide, questioning eyes. All the success, the carefully groomed image, the money, none of it mattered at this moment. Someone in the corridor snapped a photo with a phone. Darius ground his teeth. This story would be out in the tabloids within hours, no doubt overshadowing his carefully planned wedding coverage. The Hawthorne family's name might be dragged through the mud, jeopardizing Darius's new alliance. The cost of his choices had soared beyond measure. Sensing the need for privacy, Celeste signaled for the few onlookers to give them space. Security staff moved them along, but whispers lingered in the air. In the quiet that followed, Celeste asked softly, "Amelia, do you have somewhere to go tonight? A hotel or a friend's place? Because I think we all need some distance after this bombshell." Amelia nodded. "Yes, I do. I only came because, well, you've seen why. Now that I've told him, I'll leave you two to figure out how to proceed." Her gaze flicked to Darius. "But Darius, the first won't be ignored. If you choose to bury your head again, I'll ensure legal papers reach you promptly." Darius swallowed, acutely aware that the ghost of fatherhood had just become flesh and blood. He studied Noah's small face, feeling equal parts wonder and dread. For a moment, he tried to imagine life with a child. The concept felt alien, dangerously at odds with the glamorous path he'd charted with Celeste. Celeste stepped aside, silent tears trailing down her cheeks. Amelia turned to leave, gently guiding the nanny and Noah toward the foyer. Darius made a half-hearted move as if to follow, but stopped, torn between duty to his bride and the unexpected paternal obligations. In that pause, the intangible cost of all his cynicism and cruelty weighed on him. His heart hammered as he watched Amelia's retreating figure. The hush resumed after they disappeared through a set of ornate doors. Darius realized everyone at the wedding would notice his absence soon. The music from the reception hall continued, ironically festive. Celeste stood by the corridor wall, hugging her arms around herself as if the temperature had dropped. He approached her, voice shaking. "Celeste, this is beyond anything I ever wanted. I love you and I want our marriage to stand." He attempted to rest a hand on her shoulder. She shrugged him off gently, her expression resolute despite her tears. "I can't stand by while you treat your child as a nuisance to be swatted away with hush money. He deserves better. Amelia deserves better." Celeste's voice cracked. "You owe them a chance. And me? I can't even look at you right now without wondering what else you've buried." He reached for her again, desperate. "Please, I'll fix this. I'll talk to my lawyers tomorrow, take care of everything. You and I—" She shook her head, stepping away. "This marriage was built on illusions, Darius. You painted yourself as a man of power and integrity, but you can't buy your way out of fatherhood. I don't know what happens next. Maybe I'll give you a chance to prove you're more than this. But I need time." The weight of immediate karma pressed like a vise around his heart. Amelia's face, tears and defiance lingered in his mind. Noah's uncertain gaze haunted him, and Celeste, his brand-new wife, stood just out of reach, fragile trust shattered. Somewhere in the background, an MC announced the bride and groom's first dance. The wedding's crowd clamored for a sight of the couple. The meticulously planned day had descended into chaos, orchestrated by none other than Darius himself. No matter how grand the show, the truth demands a reckoning. The vow he'd made to be loyal and loving rang hollow, overshadowed by the secret child he'd left behind. Darius Moreau learned on his wedding day that wealth and charm can't shield you from the consequences of carelessness. His arrogance led him to mock an ex who refused to remain silent, unveiling his long-hidden responsibilities for all to see. As Amelia walked away, child in her arms, Darius was left to face the shock and heartbreak of a bride who could no longer trust him. Immediate karma made it clear, legacies aren't built solely on success. They're anchored in accountability and empathy. If this story's dramatic twists gripped you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support fuels more jaw-dropping tales and raw insights into how one moment can change everything.